Hello, I'm Mark Montgomery. Of course, this is the Mark Montgomery Show. You can hear me on the radio in Sacramento on Money 105.5. That's 0.5 FM, the Wall Street Business Network, every morning, Monday through Friday, from 7 to 9. And on Saturdays, 1380 KTKZ AM from 8 to 10, of course, every Saturday morning. Every Tuesday, I'm here taping this show and trying to talk about issues that are important, hopefully to all of us, but once in a while I like to bring up some miscellaneous subjects that interest me. But on the way up here, I had a thought, and for those of you that have listened to me on the radio, those thoughts are somewhat spontaneous, and I take advantage of them on the radio. So I'm going to do that a little bit here today. And on the way up, they were talking about Mitt Romney's comment about so many people being on the government's, on some government program across the country. Something like 49% take some benefit from the government or get some benefit from the government, and that they wouldn't be voting for Mitt Romney anyway as far as the folks on welfare, etc. And so many people took exception to that. I actually didn't, because it's true that there is a much, much larger percentage of people now that are taking advantage of government programs, and quite honestly in a fraudulent manner, such as Social Security disability. Hundreds of thousands of people are being put onto the disability rolls, Social Security disability rolls, just because they're stressed because they don't have a job or they've lost a home or whatever it may be. And of course, that's not the intent of the program. But that's not where I want to go. What came to mind was that we have something like 47 million people now on food stamps, meaning they need their meals from the government, or at least those meals must be supplemented. I suppose otherwise they would starve. They would just literally shrivel up and pass away. I don't believe that to be the case. As I've said so many times on the radio show, I believe the greatest motivator we have, and we've basically eliminated it in this society, is an empty stomach. Now, what would you do if you didn't have access to a government program, government food, and you had to supply for your family? Well, when I was young, that's actually how I grew up. We planted gardens, we had livestock, we processed milk, cottage cheese, butter, you name it. We were almost totally self-sufficient. I was raised by my grandmother. She canned fruits and vegetables. We had, more than enough. Matter of fact, there was enough stored away to last probably for years, and it was great. It tasted great. It was good for us. It was straight out of the garden. And I started wondering on the way up here from Sacramento, what would people do today to survive? Why aren't more people planting gardens and canning instead of being on food stamps or some other program? Why aren't they gardening, buying fruits, raising fruit, put a peach tree in your backyard, plant a garden, and can the produce? Well, there's one problem. They aren't teaching canning or anything anymore in school. We don't have these types of programs in the schools. People are not taught to be self-sufficient. If you need something, turn to the government. If you don't have a job, turn to the government. If you're ill, turn to the government. It's take care of me. And this piggybacks somewhat of another subject that I've actually mentioned to a number of people. I've had this discussion with my wife, and that is, what if there was a major catastrophe on this planet? Would we be capable of surviving? Would people have the skills to actually survive, to understand or know how to create shelter, how to plant food and process food? I doubt it. I think you would have a large percentage of the population perish. I think it would be also quite violent before that happened. And it's a shame. We should be learning in school these survival concepts, and it's very simple. Planting fruit trees, gardens, whether it be green beans, potatoes, whatever, you can plant them in your backyard. What about chickens? That brings up another interesting point, and I don't know about up here in the Jackson area, but in Sacramento, they had to pass an ordinance for you to have a few chickens in your backyard. Now, they also, of course, charge for a permit to have those chickens, of course, in your backyard. So there's money involved, and frankly, it probably makes sense to buy your eggs from the store now, because the permits, if you look at the permit fees that Sacramento's charging, you can buy a lot of eggs with those permit fees. So I'm not so sure that it makes sense. Now, on the other hand, you could have eggs, and if you handle things correctly, you would also have meat if you learn how to, of course, take care of the chicken. As far as whether you're going to wring its neck or cut its head off, I don't know. But the point is, if you are starving or you must provide for yourself, do you know how? I grew up that way. I grew up on chickens and rabbits and so on, and it was just a natural way to go as far as I was concerned at a young age. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up as a matter of interest, that are we capable of taking care of ourselves? And just think about it. If you're raising chickens, you even have the down for your pillows if you want it. So there's all kinds of benefits there. But most people today couldn't possibly do it. Something else I want to just touch on real quick, and that is Amazon. And last Saturday, I don't know if you're aware of it. Now, if you've been on Amazon, you may be aware of it now. If you've purchased something on Amazon, they are now collecting tax for the state of California, which is something they said they would never do. But, of course, the political scene here in California put a lot of pressure on them. But finally, Amazon decided that they were going to put some large, and I mean large, distribution centers right here in California. Patterson, just down the road a ways, is putting in a huge distribution center, and another one will be in San Bernardino, I believe, creating many, many jobs. But this also means they're going to be collecting tax because they have a physical presence in California. Collecting that sales tax will be something they do now online. Now, the people that are Amazon affiliates, they don't have to collect tax. So it's still a possibility you can get around paying a tax, but if you are purchasing through Amazon, they are now charging tax for California residents as of last Saturday. So it's going to be interesting on how this plays out, because I honestly believe that over time you will be paying tax on anything you buy online, because the politicians, whether it's states, counties, cities, are going to try and get that penny off of every purchase that you make. So bottom line is, that's government, our big government, at work. The key also being is big government becomes more and more revenue hungry. They are going to take more and more. Proposition 30, Jerry Brown's Proposition 30 here in California is a great example. It's going to generate, supposedly, approximately over a 7-year period, $50 billion in taxes. And you may say, well, the government needs it. No, they don't. Matter of fact, revenues are up, in California, but spending is also up. They're not telling you that. The other thing is that that's $50 billion out of the private sector. Now, $50 billion overall can buy a lot of cars, a lot of houses, a lot of couches, refrigerators, paint, carpet, whatever it may be, and that is the point, is that whenever government takes that money out of the private sector, and that's what taxes do, there is less money to spend on product created by people, which means jobs. So, in my opinion, again, we're headed in the wrong direction, wrong thing. Now, in the next segment, I'm going to be talking about Proposition 30 and how chambers of commerce are reacting to this. I think this is a tragedy, and I've talked about chambers of commerce before, but it's important that people that belong, businesses that belong to chambers of commerce, understand where chambers of commerce come from, but also what their particular chamber is doing. Who are they supporting? Because what came to my attention when I was first on radio that really upset me was that chambers of commerce are supporting people that don't support business. I wondered, why do we have all these organizations and California is still going this direction? Bigger government and, frankly, European-style socialism. Why is it? It's because the organizations that should be supporting small businesses and entrepreneurship and expansion of business, basically, as far as I'm concerned, a right-to-work state, a state that's friendly to business, hasn't happened. And yet we have organizations that profess that should happen, but it still hasn't happened. It's been decades since we've been going down this path. So, folks, we're going to talk about chambers of commerce and Proposition 13 just as soon as we come back, after the break. And we're going to be talking, of course, where Jerry Brown stands on all of this with the chambers of commerce also. I'm Mark Montgomery, and we'll be right back in just a few seconds.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.
Welcome back, folks. I'm Mark Montgomery. Jerry Brown, State of California, Governor of California, every time he opens his mouth, it's pretty much, I need more money. We can do so much more if you would just pay more in taxes. The key in balancing our budget, supposedly, I'm throwing that word in, is if you would just pay more money. Now, what he's really saying is we are in deep you-know-what when it comes to pensions and health care, for the union government workers, and we've got to protect these workers. And how we're going to do that is we are going to play this con game with the taxpayers and say that this money's all for education, when in fact it's not going to impact education whatsoever. It's going to be going to pensions, and quite honestly, some of it may be peeled off for Jerry's high-speed rail. That's going to really help the students. Matter of fact, maybe they go down there and see what a dead-end project is. Maybe learn some economics, from it. But anyway, Governor Brown says this. This was just out the other day. It says, win or lose. This is Jerry Brown. Win or lose, Jerry Brown says his ballot bid to raise the state sales tax for everyone and wealthy people's income taxes will be the last time he pitches such a plan to the voters. So what he is saying is, when it comes to sales taxes, this is it. He's never going to pitch it again. Not going to happen. This is the last time he is going to pitch, but get the word in here, such a plan to the voters. Now, if you understand politicians at all, there are words, and I've learned this, from years ago. And actually, it came from Clinton. It depends on what is. And all of a sudden, I started looking at words differently. And here's one of those words, such. What does such mean? He says it is the last time he pitches such a plan to the voters. So I guess another type of plan would be okay, as long as it isn't exactly like this one. But such a plan that he has now, he won't do it again. He goes on. He says, as he sees it, while not perfect, his Proposition 30 is the only viable step forward. There's not another alternative. Now, this is something he actually said a while back, and I took it to task on my radio show, because this is typical of a progressive liberal mind. It's all in this box. They've got this box around their brain, and they can't think outside that box. And I believe he truly believes that the only alternative there is to save this state and to save the government workers' pensions and health care and all the other thing that Jerry cares about, oh yes, his high-speed rail train, is more taxes out of the existing businesses' pockets. There is no other way, no alternative other than to pass more taxes. Now, this actually goes back to the Democratic progressive liberal thinking in about 2002, 2003, when they were caught on an open mic behind closed doors, supposedly kind of a secret meeting. It was the Democratic caucus in the Capitol, and they were caught literally saying, we must continue to spend, and sooner or later the electorate will wake up and realize they have to pay more taxes. That's how we get our tax increases. So what they have done over the last decade, and actually a couple of decades, has spent this state and set it up, thanks to Gray Davis and Jerry Brown. They have set this state up to bankruptcy if you don't pay more taxes. Spend, 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 and you have to raise taxes if your child is to go to school. It's that simple. It's all about the children. It's all about tuition for your college student so that they don't go broke or have some enormous student loan. The key is more taxes. Pickpocket Perez has said the same thing with his bill, basically saying that if you just pass these taxes, more corporate taxes, ding the corporations, the businesses that create jobs that come into California, we're going to put that towards college tuition, a portion of it, just a portion of it. That's what's going to help us out. More taxation. That's not the answer, folks. The answer is an expanded tax base, meaning more people paying smaller taxes, having a smaller tax obligation, but more people working, buying things. Business-friendly environment so businesses come into California instead of leaving. I was talking with Dan Lundgren this morning, matter of fact. I interviewed Dan on my radio show this morning. And he was saying what is absolutely amazing, Mark. He goes, when I am in the car and I'm coming into California, the freeway's coming into California, I really do notice the U-Hauls leaving California. And it's true. I've been on the road. You see a lot of U-Hauls going the other way, very few coming this way. Matter of fact, U-Haul has had a problem on getting their trailers back to California. So this in itself says we have a serious problem here in California. But there's actually a bigger problem here. And that is that they're playing games even with the poll numbers. Remember a while back on Proposition 30, Jerry Brown's tax initiative, that they were saying 70% of the voters, actually I think it was as high as 73, 70 to 73% of the voters are in favor of Jerry Brown's Proposition 30. And I remember looking at that and going, boy, California is full of idiots, frankly. How in the world could that number be true? Who are they talking to? So then it actually dropped. Another poll came out, and it says, well, it's actually around 63, 64, 65%, somewhere in there. I don't have that number in front of me at the moment. And I thought, even at that time, I go, man, where are they getting these people? But at least maybe it's becoming a little more truthful in the fact that these numbers are falling. Either that or they're asking the question maybe a little more legitimately. Well, recently, now I think this is probably truer, and this spells trouble for Jerry Brown. Goes on, this particular article, most polls now show Proposition 30 has about 53% support among voters. Not a sure bet by any means. Folks, when you get down to that number, everything that I have seen in the past when it comes to a tax increase that has fallen into the 50%, and here we're at 53%, doesn't pass. It fails. And I actually believe that Proposition 30 is going to go down in flames. Now, they're doing their best to threaten us. This is kind of amazing stuff, to me. This just came out this morning, and you're hearing it on the news right now. CSU trustees to vote on 5% tuition hike in January if tax measure fails. But it actually goes a lot further than that, folks. So here they are taking the college students, And I bet this article came out, the lines are burning up. Their students are calling mom and dad, you better vote for Proposition 30 or we're going to be paying, or I'm going to be paying 5% higher tuition. We just had an increase of 9% increase in our tuition. And if you don't pass Proposition 30, we're going to be paying more. But it actually goes much further than that. Now, this is amazing to me, folks. This is blackmail, absolute blackmail. But I think you're going to see more of this. You're going to see more and more of the schools, the teachers. Matter of fact, there was, and this has nothing to do with California. There was a teacher. It was in one of the colleges back east somewhere. Don't know the name offhand. That literally had told her students that they actually were signing a pledge, if I remember correctly, that they would all vote the Democratic ticket. Of course, being for Obama and anyone else that's Democrat. So she should be fired. That has should have no space in our schools anywhere. And frankly, any teacher doing that, matter of fact, they should put that in their agreements. If they're going to become political, that is one thing that they can fire them for. So I just think it's a tragedy, but this is the kind of thing that we're going to have to be vigilant for here in California, because this kind of thing is going to be happening. We have teachers, we have unions that are going to be in panic mode. Now, will this affect education the way they are saying? Probably. Because they are going to be punitive, as they have in the past. It's going to be police, fire, and teachers that are going to take the brunt of it, instead of actually going back. And in these colleges, for example, let's look at how many administrators they have. What are these administrators being paid? What are their retirement benefits? What are their health care benefits? What's it cost us to mow the grass, to trim the trees, paint the school, repair the roof? Are they truly getting competitive bids, or is there cronyism involved and maybe kickbacks? There is tremendous amount of waste and, frankly, fraud in our educational system, and that is what needs to be addressed. We need to be streamlining the colleges, and we need to be reducing the number of years it takes for college students to get their degrees. And frankly, do they need those degrees? Maybe many of these people that ultimately drop out should be going to a vocational school for welding, plumbing, electrical, contracting, whatever it may be, construction, and being trained in jobs that are actually very high paying, instead of that piece of paper on the wall and work at McDonald's. Now, by the way, if you go to North Dakota, McDonald's workers are making about $25 an hour. Why? Supply and demand, because they don't have enough people in North Dakota for the jobs. That's what we need right here in California. We need more jobs than we have people. You will see wages go up, and you will see the value of your real estate start to climb, because more people can purchase that real estate and build in your equity. We'll be right back. I'm Mark Montgomery, Small Biz Talk Radio on 105.5 FM every morning.
The Mark Montgomery Show.
Welcome back, folks. We're talking about CSU. Trustees to vote on 5% tuition hike in January if tax measure, that's Jerry Brown's Proposition 30, doesn't pass. It fails. But it's actually worse than that. The threats, the innuendo, what they're going to do if you don't vote for Jerry Brown's tax increase, $50 billion, by the way, over 7 years. And by the way, it'll never happen. They won't get $50 billion out of it, because a lot of the folks that they are thinking they are going to get that money out of are going to be gone. They're going to find ways to shelter it, or they're going to be gone. And frankly, a lot of those so-called millionaires and rich people are small business owners, and they're hanging by a thread now, or they're going to close their doors, or they're going to hunker down, or they're going to say, fine, I'm going to have to lay off a couple of people in order to afford my taxes, here. So they will adjust one way or another, closing their doors, moving their business, or consolidating down more. Now, there's a lot of things going on that are going to cause businesses to do that if Jerry Brown signs the bill, or, for example, these tax increases go through. What's hampering business today, small business especially, is the uncertainty of tomorrow. What is going to happen tomorrow? Will Proposition 30 pass? What's that going to do to business? There's also another bill that is on Jerry Brown's desk, and this is a bill where they are looking to, and I don't have it handy, I'll have it maybe in the next segment here, but where they are looking to set up a CalPERS type of investment organization, I'll just use that word, for private business, not government, not union, but you and I, that we will be forced, in a sense, to pay into a pension fund for, or have, or belong to this state pension fund for the private sector. Now, one of the things that they're talking about is if you don't belong, you don't sign up, you will be penalized something like $750 per employee if you don't join this state-run pension plan. Frankly, folks, the whole idea behind this is they are looking to shore up CalPERS. So whether they say this or not, they're looking to maybe borrow. Of course, they're saying there's going to be a lockbox here, right? If you believe that, then again, I've got some property oceanfront in Arizona to sell you. But what they're looking for is to build up maybe billions of dollars, and that way CalPERS and the government workers can borrow from that fund to shore them up. And you're going to see these kinds of games start taking place. So as I find that material, I'll bring it up. And I want to continue on CSU. There are so many things going on in this state, folks. It is mind-boggling. It's corrupt. It's immoral. It shouldn't be happening. The things that are sitting on Jerry Brown's desk today for signature or veto, hopefully vetoes in many cases, should have never even made it to Jerry's desk. They shouldn't have even been proposed. This stuff is just amazing to me. But anyway, CSU says this 5% tuition increase would be automatically rescinded. Now here's the little carrot, out there. The 5% tuition increase would be automatically rescinded if voters pass the November tax initiative. Furthermore, trustees could vote, now get this one, trustees could vote to rescind the 9% tuition hike already in effect for the 2012-2013 year. Now, what would this mean? Get this, folks. It would mean students could see partial reimbursement checks. So here, on one hand, you have a potential 5% increase in tuition if Proposition 30 doesn't pass, but we'll double down on that because you've been paying 9% higher tuition here. Gosh, if this passes, we'll give you a refund check. So you get a refund on whatever you haven't used on your 9% tuition increase, and we won't do the 5%. And by the way, there's more that we're going to do to you also, since it's all for you kids. It's all for you kids. It says trustees will also consider a waive of new resident student fees that would generate about $35 million annually. Now let's say that again. Trustees will also consider a waive of new resident student fees that would generate about $35 million annually. So CSU leaders said the fees would help reduce graduation time and improve access to classes. The fees include this. Here's a good one. A graduation incentive fee. They're going to give you an incentive to graduate here. Well, let's check it out. A graduation incentive fee that would require resident seniors. Now, they got you already. Remember, they got you your senior year. You're ready to graduate. You've earned 150 semester units, but you want some more units, or you need some further education here to go into the profession that you desire, right? All right. It says, this would require resident seniors who have earned 150 semester units or more to pay an additional fee per unit equal to non-resident tuition, which is $372 per unit. So for the privilege of putting in all this time for your education. You've now earned 150 semester units. You need some more. You're going to have the privilege of paying an additional now $372 per unit. Now, get what they say. It says the fee is meant to encourage super seniors to graduate and free up admission slots for thousands of incoming students. In other words, seniors, pay up the additional bucks to finish off your education here and get out of the way. Get out of here. And if you can't pay it, too bad. Get out. $372 per unit. Here's another one. A course repeat fee, where students who choose to repeat a course would be required to pay an extra set fee of $100 per unit. So what was that again? A repeat fee. So that means if you're going to repeat a class, in other words, you say, you know, I'd like to go through that class again because, boy, I really need to understand this class. I need to do better in this class. Okay, that's fine. But if you're going to repeat a class, $100 per unit more. The fee is intended to lead students to make careful choices. Here's government again trying to, you know, create these social, programs to steer you in one direction or another. It says make careful choices when selecting classes and free up space for students who have not had an opportunity to take the course. So they got to free up more space. There's a third one, a third-tier tuition fee, in which students enrolled in 17 or more units. Now, these are the serious students. These are the ones that I am going to get a good education. I want to get through here as quick as I can. They've got the money. They've got the time to do it. A third-tier tuition fee in which students enrolled in 17 or more units would be charged for each unit taken above 16 units at a rate of $200 per unit. So here you are. You're paying 5%. Well, let's go back. 9% increased tuition this last year. A possible additional 5%. And if they didn't get you on this, they're going to get you on these other programs. For example, in this third-tier tuition fee, if you're carrying more units than 16, you're going to get charged $200 more per unit. The third tier would dissuade students from signing up for extra course loads only to drop courses later in the semester. So they're thinking that you're going to be taking these units, it's going to be too much for you, and so to dissuade you from making that kind of a decision, they're going to penalize you because you might drop out later in the semester. Might. So my question is, if you don't, will they reimburse you your money? This is amazing stuff, folks. It just becomes more and more complicated. Typical government bureaucrats thinking of ways to raise money and penalize people that, frankly, are serious about going to college. This is, like I say, this is just mind-boggling to me. Why don't they, again, go in and look at pensions, the health care? How about looking at how many administrators they have for every faculty member? How about paying these faculty members that actually are supposed to be teaching in class? They pay them $250,000 a year, and they don't even show up in class. They have some, tutor or someone in class that is teaching the class. They don't even teach. They need to clean the system up, folks, because right now they are dinging the students. And for you students that may be listening to this, you need to wake up because you're being conned by the very politicians that you hope are going to help you. The key is not increased taxes, folks. It's not increased tuitions. By the way, as long as you continue to pay more in the way or borrow more on student loans, and the colleges know that you will borrow more on that student loan to get into that college, you're going to see tuitions continue to go up whether we pass Proposition 30 or not. So the key is be aware of what's going on. And if you're going to do anything, fight the status quo. You can do it. So again, our educational system is being used as a pawn in this whole scheme of raising our taxes here in California. I'm Mark Montgomery, and we'll be right back.
The Mark Montgomery Show.
Welcome back, folks. I'm Mark Montgomery, and for this last segment, there's a couple of things I want to talk about. One of them is Proposition 32, and this is a bill basically that is pushing back on the on unions. The idea that government can, or actually unions, force folks to pay a union dues, which of course they take, and put a portion of that into a political PAC. And whether you're Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, whatever you are, independent, you have to pay that to the union. The state collects it and pays it to the union, which, by the way, I disagree with in the first place. The union should be collecting that money themselves, from their membership. But people should have a choice on whether they are going to pay into that political PAC or not. They should have a choice. They don't currently. So if you're a Republican, or let's say an independent, and you are forced to pay money into the government unions, you're supporting and paying money into something that you literally don't support. If that's going to supporting, say, a Jerry Brown here in the state of California, or some initiative that you don't believe that should be passed, such as Proposition 30, or the pension bill, which is AB 340, you don't support these, but the unions do. So you see your money being used against your beliefs and how you would vote. That does need to change. So what I'm saying to you, when it comes to Proposition 32, vote yes, on that. That would change the dynamics here in the state. Now, would it still be in for a fight when it comes to the Supreme Court and basically the legal system? You bet. This would be California's Wisconsin moment, basically. But we need to take the money, the big money, special interest money, out of politics. Now, some of you may be saying, oh yeah, Mark, well, you know how that goes. Big dirty oil money is going to flow into California, and it's just going to inundate us, and we don't have any way of fighting back. Folks, that is not true. The bottom line is that there's a big fight, right now on Proposition 32, and an example of this is just the other day, we had an article, and it was Political California, that a group linked to the Koch brothers, big oil, they're well known for their oil money. The brothers give $4 million to support Proposition 32. $4 million, and you're going, whoa, boy, the money, the millions are flowing into California. Well, let's take it a step further. Let's see what's really going on here. It says, Proposition 32, Teachers Union gives another $6.9 million to Proposition 32 fight. Now, this was just on September 6th, but it says another $6.9 million. So, Koch brothers give $4 million. It's a big deal. And then there's a little article in the Los Angeles Times that says Teachers Union gives another $6.9 million. So, how much money is connected and been put into supporting Proposition 32, which is a big deal, by the way, folks. This is a big proposition. But just what kind of money is flowing in support of Proposition 32, and what kind of money is coming in fighting Proposition 32? Anyone venture to guess, out there? Well, the total for coming in that has been put into the coffers so far to support Proposition 32, $8 million. You say, whoa, man, that's a lot of money, Mark. $8 million. All right, what about the opposition? Well, right there, it says the Teachers Union gives another $6.9 million. Another $6.9 million. So this article goes on. It says California's largest teachers union. Remember, it's always for the kids, folks. This is all about the kids, although Prop 32 deals with what? Union dues, going in for political action. says California's largest teachers union is literally doubling down to fight Proposition 32, the November ballot measure that promises to eliminate special interest money in politics. It says on Wednesday, this was back on around the 6th, the California Teachers Association contributed $6,950,000 to labor-backed opposition campaign, bringing the grand total of its donations, we're talking California Teachers Association, a grand total of its donations to more than $16 million. So alone, the teachers union has doubled the money in opposition to Prop 32 than what the supporters of Prop 32 have paid in. Doubled it. That's just the teachers union. It says, according to records filed with the Secretary of State's office, the teachers union has donated $16 million. In all, now here's the real kicker, folks. In all, unions have raised more than $35.7 million to defeat Proposition 32. That's the big story. $8 million to support it, close to $36 million to fight it. This is a big fight. They know it's a big fight. This could change the political scene in California if Proposition 32 passes. And of course, I'm in support of it. So, folks, you need to be aware of what is going on. We are being fleeced. We have, in the unfunded liability realm of things, we have somewhere between $250 billion and $500 billion in unfunded liability here in California when it comes to CalPERS, for example. What's not said is that there's approximately $75 billion in unfunded health care liability. You know who's responsible for that? You and I. You and I, folks. Now, personally, I would like to take the money out of politics. This needs to be straightened out. But you and I are going to be fleeced on this one if you support Proposition 30, Jerry Brown's tax proposal. Because most of that money is going to find its way into pensions and health care. Oh, yeah, and high-speed rail. That's where it's going to go. There are other issues, such as cap and trade, that's going to be coming up, the auction for carbon credits. They have basically gutted the transparency laws so they can do with that money whatever they want to do, and you and I have no right to check up on it to see where it's going. Why? Because they want to put that into social programs. Matter of fact, there's bills right now on Jerry Brown's desk to do exactly that, to be able to take cap and trade money, which is supposed to be geared to AB 32, Global Warming Initiative, which should have never happened here in California. It's going to drive the cost of everything up here in California. I mean everything in California. And much of that money is going to go into social programs, it's going to go into public transit and high-speed rail, and frankly, anything else that the progressive liberals want to put it into because they have gutted the transparency laws here in California. So that's where things are. When it comes to the pension bill, AB 340, folks, there are some good things in it. I'll say that right up front. However, it'll be undone because it's not a constitutional amendment. It's not constitutional. It has nothing to do with the Constitution. It can be undone. Now, Mimi Walters had a great article on this. She's state senator, and she has said, well, the question was, since she was here, was there anything that she liked about the pension bill? Which, of course, Jerry Brown has said they got what they possibly could. It's just so difficult, so complicated. Folks, months ago, I said that was exactly what they were going to try to do. They would either get to the point of, we just don't have enough time. This is just so complicated. Remember, it was down to the wire on Friday. They're going to all leave. Now's when they're dealing with this pension bill that they've had years, frankly, to work with. But they get down to the last number of minutes, and then Jerry Brown comes out and says, we've got a deal, which was over the weekend. We got a deal. We got as much as we could possibly get. Boy, it's just so complicated. It was last minute. Well, where have they been the last few years? They know that they have this problem. The problem is the union said, look, you go past this, buddy, you're in big, big trouble. So you better knock it off. He also knew, even though he's got some people snookered on this, that says Jerry's really trying, he's trying hard, but he also knows that Pickpocket Perez and Darrell Spinberg are not going to go along with it. They can't. They're bought and paid for, just like Jerry Brown, by the government unions and the trial lawyers and the environmentalists. Folks, just as a last quick note, something I just want to mention quickly, and this has to do with the Middle East. Something that really has bothered me. It says Marines not permitted live ammo. That was in Egypt. A question that hasn't been asked. Were the SEALs that were killed in Libya armed? No one has asked that question. Is everybody afraid to ask it, or are they cutting it out? What's going on here? What were the rules of engagement in Libya and in Egypt? At any of our embassies, what are the rules of engagement? Not been answered. Not only that, 9/11, and you are not protecting an embassy in one of the most dangerous countries on the face of this planet right now, and that's Libya and Egypt? The Muslim Brotherhood in control, and you literally put your ambassador and your embassy at risk? Don't think so. This is poor judgment in government, folks. Right at the top. Right at the top, the pinnacle. That's where the buck stops, or should stop. Of course, I'm sure they'll find a way. It's all Bush's fault. That's what happened. So this is a story that's not going to go away, folks, and possibly next week we'll have more information on it. But I think it's a question that should be asked. What are we doing to protect our embassies? All I can say before I close out is think about how you're going to vote this coming November. Make it Opposites Day for all you Democrats out there. It's Opposites Day. You got to vote opposite of what you would normally vote. Folks, join me during the week on Money 105.5 FM, 7 to 9 in the morning. Saturdays, 1380 KTKZ, 8 to 10. Have a great rest of the week. I'm Mark Montgomery, signing out.
The Mark Montgomery Show.